We are already in February 2021, but the economic forecasts continue. That because there are a lot of moving targets and because the world economy is not functioning at its full capacity yet. In many instances, including here in the Bay Area and in San Francisco, we've been closed for 2 months with shelter-in-place ordinance. We just reopened last week, slowly, but we see sign of life right now in a city. So this morning I had the chance to participate on Zoom to a forecast that is usually a pleasure to go to in person. I usually go there. There is some nice breakfast at some nice hotel downtown San Francisco because it has the participation of both mayors of San Francisco and Oakland and a very special guest and excellent forecaster, Ken Rosen, who is an economist and a researcher at UC Berkeley Haas School of Business. So they're all there. And another forecaster, a senior economist with Bank of America, Michelle Mayer. Has another opinion and a younger voice in economic forecasting. So it was informative, but what I liked also it was that it was balanced. We do need to be objective if we want to make things better in San Francisco. So I would just outline a few things that were discussed there. Obviously, we're experiencing a budget deficit from the mayor's office's point of view and situation, so it doesn't look fantastic. They were forced to take the decision of closing most of the city and businesses. And as a result, San Francisco and Oakland are number one on a list with the least cases of death because of COVID-19 out of all metropolitan areas in the country. So we only had 0.47 death per 1,000 inhabitants, which is a very low rate comparing with New York where they had 3, and which is at the other spectrum of this, of the statistic. But as a consequence, we are also one of the cities hit the hardest economically and socially. We also still have a problem with homelessness. We had it even before the COVID, but it did not make it easier. We're still not number one. I know that it looks bad. I know that in 2019, when we had the big NAR conference here, a lot of my friends from around the world were telling me that it looks absolutely terrible. And I agree with them. It does look terrible. The reason it does look terrible, it's because we are a city, we're a very liberal city. A lot of things are permitted, and it's about the individual rights, and people with mental illness are allowed to live on the streets. You cannot force them inside of a shelter, and you cannot force them to have treatment against their will. And since they are not in the mental capacity, a full one, they cannot consent to it. So that's you get the full picture. That's why it looks bad. Besides, we don't necessarily have remote areas or neighborhoods which are the outskirts of San Francisco. They would be worse than others. We don't have that. So you see everything in the middle of downtown or civic center, and it's pretty much in public display for everyone to see. Nothing to hide. Anyway, that's still a problem to work on. As a consequence of this closure, a lot of technology companies, which we have plenty here, and biotechnology, had their employees working from home, which meant that a lot of businesses supported by this mass of workers who are going every day to office, especially in the financial district, and buying food and clothing and so on, they had to close because they were reliant on it. So you see a lot of empty commercial spaces. Even large chain retailers like Gap closed the flagship store in San Francisco. And restaurants, not to mention boutiques, so on, gyms. A lot of businesses, they couldn't last through COVID. That is pretty much it. And are the workers ready to go to office right now? On, again, another statistical scale, Dallas, if you look at Dallas, for example, 37% of the office employees are back to work, while in San Francisco only 11, which is the least number of workers who went back to office. And probably it's going to take a lot longer until companies in the Bay Area, in San Francisco in particular, will invite the workers to the office. A lot of them actually announced an indefinite working from home policies, so a lot of people could elect to live somewhere else in the Bay Area. Which brings me to what and why we're in the news a lot. Why we're in the news a lot is because our rents, occupancy dropped, and so did the price. On average by 14%, but in certain neighborhoods by 20%. Vacancy is up to 12%. That was something it's unprecedented. That never happened before. We had crisis, but different. And condominium prices are by large down. There's no need to build more in downtown San Francisco in particular, especially office buildings. So it's at the halt right now, and it will be until things will stabilize, and it will be more need of office space, obviously. And what tops it all is the migration. So if you look at certain statistics, the migration will be about, I don't know, in a 2020, about 40,000 people. If you look at the post office statistics, is about 70,000 for San Francisco. That's quite a bit, actually, for a city of almost 900,000 people. But yes, some people left because they saw opportunities in another city. They were looking for more space. They were suddenly displeased, and this pandemic exacerbated problems that people were complaining about even before. So in absence of lively and dynamic lifestyle and enjoying world-class restaurants and museums, and being able to go to office, or being forced to go to office because most people had to go to office before, and corroborated with homelessness, crime rate increases, and so on, taxes, not to mention taxes, and cost of living in general. Yes, we do experience some migration, population migration. Now, on a good side, if some companies and population left the city, the prices are lower right now. So there is an opportunity for newcomers, new businesses, new initiatives to move in a city. They couldn't do that before. They could do it now. There are funds ready to come back and invest, and you will see them being extremely supportive, especially of life sciences companies. And we still attract a lot of talent to our universities. Things will open, people will come back. Very capable, brilliant students from all around the world will come back to UC Berkeley, to Stanford. They will need to live here eventually. And we still have hope. We have a lot of hope. It's still beautiful. There is a great weather, beautiful scenery, and hopefully out of all this, our city and city leaders learn something during pandemic, and they will become better leaders and just take the measurements necessary to make this what has always been this area, a world-class city. I'm staying, obviously. I live here, I work here, I sell real estate here. We have a lot of opportunities. So if you want to know anything about the city, a city that I know intimately for the past 20 years, and I love the way it is, with good and bad, please let me know. I'm Alina Abbey, and I'm not going anywhere out of San Francisco anytime soon.